Your heart is, it's just racing.
Yeah.
Your palms are sweating. You're looking at like a friendly barista or maybe a new classmate or a colleague in the break room, and they just asked you a completely harmless question, something super basic like, how are you doing today?
Right. The easiest question in the world.
Exactly. And suddenly your brain, which by the way perfectly knows like 3,000 English words.
Oh, easily.
Right. A brain that understands all these complex grammar rules on paper that can probably read an entire novel in English, it has just suddenly deleted all of it.
Just completely wiped the hard drive.
Yes. Every single word. Gone. You're just staring at this person and the silence is stretching out and you cannot find a single solitary syllable to say.
It's terrifying.
It really is. I mean, why does a totally normal coffee shop suddenly feel like, I don't know, a life or death threat to your nervous system?
Yeah, it's wild when you actually think about it.
So, if you're listening to this and you have ever felt that frustrating freeze, I just want to tell you right off the bat that you are not broken.
No, not at all.
You are experiencing a profoundly common psychological phenomenon. And honestly, just by sharing this space with us today, just by tuning into this deep dive, you're already doing the work to dismantle that fear.
You really are. I mean, it is a massive first step to just look that anxiety in the eye.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, most people try to just ignore the fear. They think, if I just study more vocabulary flashcards, the fear is just going to magically go away.
Like more flashcards will fix a panic attack.
Exactly. But what we're going to explore today proves that it's really not a vocabulary problem at all.
Right.
It's a psychological roadblock. I mean, the whole manual for language learning goes straight out the window when the human nervous system gets involved.
Which is fascinating. And that actually brings us to our source material for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are looking at this incredibly insightful, just super relatable conversation between two people, Ava and Leo.
Yeah, I loved reading their chat. It's so good. They basically map out the whole emotional and practical journey of what it actually takes to find your voice in English. And the thing is, they aren't linguists, right? They're not grammar teachers.
No, they're just two normal people.
Exactly. Just two people dissecting the human experience of language. And so our mission today is to really unpack the anxiety they describe.
Yeah, to look under the hood, so to speak.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you've ever felt your heart race just thinking about saying hello in a new language, you are absolutely not alone. We're going to look at the mechanics of why we freeze up and outline a clear, actionable path to transition from this mindset of, paralyzing perfection.
One of genuine human connection.
Yes, because the anatomy of what happens in our minds when we try to speak a new language is wildly complex.
It really is a physiological reality. I mean, Ava points out early on that talking to new people feels inherently scary when you aren't fully confident.
Yeah. And Leo makes this crucial observation. He says, you genuinely want to speak and connect, but something inside you just quietly stops you.
Just quietly stops you. I love that phrasing. So accurate.
Right. The body actually overrides the mind's desire to communicate.
And Leo specifically talks about, the heart beating faster and feeling nervous even when the situation is not dangerous at all.
Yeah, that disconnect is so key.
I really want to dig into the mechanics of that. I mean, why does the body react to a friendly conversation at a bookstore the exact same way it reacts to being chased by a predator?
So to understand that, we really have to look at how the brain processes threat.
Okay.
You have this alarm system in your brain called the amygdala. And its entire job, literally its only purpose, is to keep you safe from danger.
Right, the survival mechanism.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the greatest danger to a human wasn't just like a tiger in the bushes.
What was it?
It was social rejection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you were rejected by your tribe, you were cast out, and you wouldn't survive on your own. You'd just die.
So it literally was life or death.
Precisely. So the human brain evolved to view social embarrassment like looking foolish, sounding incompetent, being misunderstood as a literal threat to your physical survival.
That explains so much.
Right. So when you step up to speak a new language, your internal monologue just starts sprinting. Ava and Leo detail this perfectly in their chat.
Yeah, they do.
You start thinking, is this correct? Does this sound okay? What if my English is not good enough? What if they judge me?
So the brain essentially interprets, I might use the wrong verb tense, as I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe and left to perish in the wilderness.
That is exactly what happens. Biologically, there's no difference to the amygdala.
That's insane.
And when the amygdala senses that threat, it triggers a fight, flight, or freeze response. It dumps all this cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream.
Hence the racing heart and sweaty palms.
Exactly. Your heart rate spikes to pump blood to your muscles so you can physically run away.
But you're just standing at a cafe counter. You can't run.
Right. You can't just sprint out of Starbucks because someone asked how you are. So what's left? You freeze.
Wow. But wait, why does the vocabulary completely disappear? Because I can be terrified, like really scared, and still know how to speak my native language.
Yeah, that's true.
So why does the English just vanish? Why do we get what Ava and Leo call the blank mind?
That all comes down to cognitive load and how the brain allocates its resources when it's under stress.
Okay, break that down for me.
So language retrieval, especially for a second language, which takes more effort, happens in the prefrontal cortex.
Right, the front of the brain.
Yeah, that's the logical, higher-order thinking part of your brain. And it requires a lot of energy to access those neural pathways when the language isn't completely native yet.
Makes sense.
But when your amygdala sounds the alarm, the brain literally reroutes energy away from the prefrontal cortex. It sends all the juice to your primal survival centers. Oh my gosh.
Because the brain's logic is, listen, we don't need to conjugate verbs right now. We need to survive the tiger.
So the bridge to access your English vocabulary is just temporarily shut down.
Completely shut down. You aren't actually forgetting the words. You are biologically blocked from retrieving them.
That totally reframes the entire experience for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not that I haven't studied enough or that I'm bad at English. It's that my brain's processing power is just being consumed by the threat of embarrassment.
Exactly. You're fighting biology, not a lack of knowledge.
And this biological freeze, that's what creates the silence.
Yes.
But what really caught my attention in the source material is that Ava and Leo don't just talk about one awkward silence.
Right. They have a really nuanced view on this.
They do. They break the interaction down into two distinct silences. And the mechanics of each one are very, very different.
Yes, the two silences. Honestly, it is one of the most brilliant observations of human interaction I've seen in a long time.
Let's talk about the first silence.
In the text, they describe it as that uncomfortable hesitation right before you speak. It's the moment you're, like, gearing up to say something. You have the sentence in your head, but this friction just holds you back.
Yeah, the friction of initiation.
Right.
It's like you're standing on the edge of a diving board looking down at the water, and you're just trying to convince your legs to jump.
That's a great way to put it.
But the key here is that it's purely internal. The other person doesn't even know you're struggling because you haven't opened your mouth yet.
You're just fighting a silent battle in your own head.
Exactly.
But then there is the second silence.
Oh, yeah. The heavy one.
And according to Ava and Leo, this one is exponentially worse.
It really is.
This is the heavier, like intensely pressurized silence that happens after you actually manage to push through the first barrier and get out a basic greeting.
Right.
So you say, "How are you?" And the other person says, "I'm good, just tired from work."
And
then nothing. You have completely exhausted your script.
the second silence is just crushing because the dynamic has fundamentally shifted.
How so?
Well, the first silence was unscripted, yes, but it was safe. You hadn't committed to anything yet.
You could just walk away.
Exactly. But the second silence, that represents the terrifying leap from memorized pleasantries into actual unscripted improvisation.
You're in it now.
The interaction has officially begun. You are on the hook. And you feel this immense pressure, as Leo notes in the text, like you must say something more quickly, but your mind just goes completely blank.
It makes me think about the difference between like reciting a poem and participating in an improv comedy show.
Oh, that's a really good analogy.
Right. Because anyone can memorize a phrase like, "How are you?"
Mm,
and deliver it. You just hit play on the tape.
sure.
But the second the other person responds with something unexpected, you are suddenly doing improv comedy in a language you haven't totally mastered yet.
Exactly.
It's like we're experiencing intense stage fright, but our stage is just a totally normal, safe, everyday interaction.
And because the brain absolutely hates that feeling of stage fright, because it hates being put on the spot where the prefrontal cortex is failing to retrieve words, it does what it always does when faced with severe discomfort.
Bitches.
It seeks an escape route. It wants to avoid the pain entirely.
Right.
Which brings us to arguably the most insidious part of this entire dynamic. The cycle of avoidance.
Oh, this part of the conversation was so hard to read because it's so true. In the source material, Ava and Leo share two highly relatable case studies from their own lives that just illustrate this avoidance perfectly.
Yeah, they really bare their souls a bit here.
Let's look at the mechanics of Ava's experience first. She talks about sitting in a small cafe.
Okay.
She has her coffee. There's a girl sitting right next to her who seems very friendly. And Ava actually has the exact phrase prepared in her mind.
She's ready to go.
She is. She wants to say, nice place, right? It's a perfectly contextual, simple, easy icebreaker.
But notice what happens before she even opens her mouth. The cognitive bottleneck just immediately begins.
Yeah, she starts catastrophizing.
Completely.
She starts worrying, what if she doesn't understand me? What if I say it weirdly and it becomes awkward? The internal monologue just totally takes over.
And what's the result?
She stays completely quiet. She literally just sits there holding her coffee, saying absolutely nothing, even though she desperately wanted to make a connection.
This is a classic textbook example of what psychologists call the spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect.
Yeah, it's a cognitive bias where we drastically overestimate how much other people are noticing our actions, our flaws, or our mistakes.
Oh, like everyone is staring at you with a spotlight on you.
Exactly. Ava's brain has convinced her that this friendly stranger is just waiting to harshly judge her pronunciation.
When in reality,
In reality, the stranger is probably just thinking about her own day, what she's going to have for lunch, you know. But the spotlight effect magnifies the perceived risk to the point of absolute paralysis.
and Leo shares a nearly identical experience, right?
Huh.
But his takes place in a classroom.
Yeah, his is a bit different contextually, but the mechanism is the same.
Right. He actually had ideas in his mind that he wanted to share during a discussion. He knew the subject matter. He wasn't confused about the topic.
He had the knowledge.
But when the moment came to jump into the conversation, the fear just hijacked his system. He just smiled, nodded, and stayed totally silent.
The desire to connect was there, but the execution failed.
And the tragedy in both of those scenarios isn't that they lacked the English skills.
No, not at all.
It's that the safety of silence just became more appealing than the vulnerability of speaking.
Which is so common, but this leads to a massive psychological insight that Leo brings up in their chat.
What's that?
When we look back at those moments, sitting silently in the cafe or nodding mutely in the classroom, what is the actual emotion that lingers?
It isn't relief.
No, it's not, phew, I stayed safe.
No, it's regret.
Exactly, it's regret.
But, as Leo brilliantly points out, it's a very specific flavor of regret. We don't actually regret making mistakes. We regret not trying.
Yes, that is the key distinction.
That small, persistent feeling of, man, I should have just said hello, is so much heavier and longer lasting than the temporary embarrassment of, like, using the wrong preposition.
We can analyze this through the lens of long-term memory.
Okay, let's do that.
When you make a grammatical mistake in a conversation, it might feel hot and embarrassing for, I don't know, about 10 seconds.
Sure.
But by the time you go to sleep that night, the other person has forgotten it entirely. And within a week, so have you.
It's gone.
But when you stay silent, you are left with the ghost of a connection that never happened.
Wow. The ghost of a connection. That's powerful.
The regret of inaction lingers much longer than the sting of a minor failure. Because deep down, you know you let the fear win.
And what's worse, letting the fear win reinforces a very negative behavioral loop. Ava and Leo outline this slow, quiet cycle perfectly.
They do. It's insidious.
It starts with holding back. You feel the fear, so you choose the safety of the first silence. You stay quiet.
And by choosing silence, you are engaging in avoidance behavior. In psychology, particularly in exposure therapy, we know that avoidance provides temporary relief, but causes massive long-term harm.
Because it validates the fear.
Exactly. When you avoid the scary thing, your brain logs a data point. Staying quiet kept us safe from the threat.
Which means the next time you're in a cafe, your brain will push even harder for you to stay quiet.
Right. You are literally training your brain to fear conversations. And on a practical level, because you're avoiding conversations entirely, you're missing out on real-world practice.
And language is a social muscle, right? Like, you can memorize verb conjugation charts in your bedroom for 10 hours a day, but if you never flex that muscle with another human being, you just don't improve naturally.
You don't. You just don't.
The timing, the rhythm, the flow of a real conversation. You can only learn that in the arena.
So if you aren't improving naturally because you aren't practicing, what happens? Your skills stagnate. And when your skills stagnate, you feel even less confident the next time an opportunity arises.
And the cycle feeds itself.
Exactly. Fear leads to avoidance. Avoidance leads to lack of practice. Lack of practice leads to stagnation. And stagnation breeds more fear. It is a slow, quiet, downward spiral.
Man, if you are listening to this right now, I really want you to pause and reflect on your own life over the last few months.
Yeah, really think about it.
Think about your workplace, your classes, your neighborhood. How many times has the fear of the second silence stopped you from engaging? How many times has the fear of a small grammar mistake stopped a potential friendship from forming or a networking connection from being made? How much of your life are you leaving on the table because you are waiting to be perfect before you speak?
It is a sobering question.
It really is.
But the good news is the source material doesn't just diagnose the problem. It provides an escape hatch.
Yes. Let's get to the good news.
And what's fascinating is that the escape hatch isn't like a secret grammar hack. It doesn't involve memorizing more words.
Thank goodness.
Right. It requires a fundamental shift in how you define the goal of speaking in the first place.
We have to move the goalpost.
We do.
Ava and Leo pinpoint this breakthrough moment that changes everything for Ava. It happens at a bookstore.
Oh, I love this story.
It's so good. So someone approaches her and asks a simple question. Now, based on her past pattern at the cafe, her biological response should be to freeze, let the amygdala take over, overthink the grammar, and stay quiet.
Right. The cycle of avoidance should kick in.
But she interrupts the pattern.
She does.
Instead of running the internal monologue of, is this correct? She just answers simply. And then, and this is the magic part, she adds just one short sentence of her own.
One single sentence.
Yes. And she admits to Leo that it wasn't a perfect sentence. The grammar probably wasn't flawless, but she says it felt good. It felt natural.
The interaction was incredibly short, but it completely rewired her internal landscape.
Oh.
Because in that brief exchange, she proved to her own nervous system that a conversation does not need to be flawless to be meaningful.
She survived.
She survived the interaction. The person didn't laugh at her. They didn't cast her out of the tribe. They just understood her.
Which brings us to, honestly, the central mantra of our entire deep dive today. It's a phrase that Ava and Leo both land on, and it's so powerful.
Connection over perfection.
Connection over perfection. I love that so much.
It sounds like a simple motivational poster you'd see in a classroom.
Right, like a cat hanging from a branch.
Exactly. But to actually execute it requires a massive cognitive shift.
Yeah, it's harder than it sounds.
Because when your goal is perfection, every single conversation is an exam.
Oh, man.
So true.
You are basically walking into the coffee shop, handing the barista a red pen, and asking them to grade your syntax.
That sounds exhausting.
It's an exhausting, terrifying way to move through the world. No wonder people freeze. Okay, wait. I need to push back on this concept just a little bit.
Go for it.
Because connection over perfection sounds great for a friendly chat in a bookstore. The stakes are super low. But what about high-stakes environments? What if I'm giving a presentation to my boss or interviewing for a job in English? In those scenarios, doesn't perfection matter? Like, a mistake isn't just a minor slip. It could literally cost me my credibility. How does this mindset survive the real world?
That is a crucial distinction, and I'm really glad you pushed back on that, because we are not advocating for deliberate ignorance of the rules.
Okay, good.
We're not saying grammar doesn't matter at all in professional settings. What we're talking about is the order of operations in your brain.
Explain that.
Even in a high-stakes job interview, if you are devoting 90% of your cognitive energy to policing your grammar, you're going to come across as stiff, robotic, and totally disconnected.
Because you're in your own head.
Exactly. The
Right.
interviewer isn't just looking for a human dictionary. They're looking for someone they can actually communicate with effectively. A teammate.
Right.
If you stumble on a preposition but you clearly convey your passion and your competence, the connection is made. The interview is a success.
But if I give a perfect sentence?
Right. If you deliver a grammatically flawless sentence, but you're staring blankly at the wall with a panicked expression because you're calculating the past participle, the connection is lost.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
And let's be real, perfection is an illusion anyway, even for native speakers. Native speakers constantly use improper grammar. They start sentences over, they use filler words like and all the time.
That's a great point. I mean, I stumble over my words in my native language literally all the time.
We all do.
But I don't panic Because my goal is just to get my point across, not to win a grammar award.
Exactly. Connection establishes trust. And trust overrides minor errors. When you shift the goalpost from "I must speak perfectly" to "I just want to make a simple human connection," you instantly relieve the pressure valve on your amygdala.
The threat level drops.
Yes, the standard for success is no longer flawless execution. The standard for success is simply a shared moment of understanding.
And once the pressure is off, the prefrontal cortex comes back online.
Exactly. And ironically, your vocabulary flows much more easily when you aren't forcing it.
Ava and Leo use this brilliant metaphor to describe this. They say that learning to speak is like building a bridge between you and another person.
I love the bridge metaphor.
Me too. They say every single word you say, even if it's a tiny, imperfect, slightly mispronounced word, is just one small plank of wood on that bridge.
I appreciate that metaphor because it really highlights the utility of language. A bridge doesn't exist to be a beautiful monument.
Right.
It just exists to get you from point A to point B.
Yes. You aren't trying to construct the Golden Gate Bridge of English sentences every time you open your mouth.
No.
You're just throwing down wooden planks over a gap so two humans can reach each other. And a bridge with a slightly crooked plank, it still works perfectly fine.
You can still walk across it.
Exactly. The barista can still walk across it to meet you. The architectural perfection of the bridge doesn't matter. The connection it facilitates is literally the only thing that matters.
And what did Ava report feeling after she built that tiny, imperfect bridge in the bookstore?
She felt more confident.
Yes. She felt more confident, and this upends a massive misconception about language learning.
Which is?
People believe that confidence is a prerequisite for action. They sit around thinking, I will start speaking once I feel confident.
Oh, I've said that myself.
Yeah.
I just need more confidence first.
But confidence doesn't precede action. Confidence follows action.
Wow. Confidence follows action.
You cannot wait for confidence to magically arrive in the mail. The act of speaking, even poorly, surviving the interaction, and realizing it wasn't a life or death scenario, that action is the very thing that manufactures the confidence.
So Ava felt confident because she took a small action.
Not the other way around. Exactly.
So to really cement this new mindset and help us survive the long haul of language acquisition, the source material offers several different ways to visualize the learning process.
Yeah, these are great.
Because, let's be honest, language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm.
How you think about the road ahead determines whether you keep walking or give up entirely.
Totally. And metaphors are incredibly powerful cognitive tools for this. We use them to map abstract, invisible processes like neuroplasticity and language acquisition onto tangible things we actually understand.
And Ava and Leo provide three very distinct metaphors for growth.
Let's explore this landscape of learning.
The first metaphor Ava brings up is the river.
Okay, the river.
She says learning English is like a river. It doesn't rush. It flows slowly. Sometimes the water is calm, and sometimes it moves a little faster. But the defining characteristic is that it always keeps moving.
We really need the river metaphor because progress in language learning is notoriously invisible.
It is. It's so frustrating sometimes.
You don't wake up on a Tuesday and suddenly realize, oh, I'm fluent now? The progress is microscopic day to day.
Right.
If you judge your progress by looking in the mirror every 24 hours, you're going to think you are failing.
Because nothing looks different.
Exactly. The river metaphor protects the learner from that specific frustration. It reminds you that even when the water looks completely still on the surface, there is a current underneath. As long as you are engaging with the language, listening, trying, you are moving forward, even if you can't feel the velocity.
I love that. The second metaphor is the plant.
The plant, yeah.
Ava says making friends and speaking English is like planting a tiny seed. You plant a simple hi. You water it a little bit every day with small conversations, and slowly it grows.
And Leo adds the critical caveat to this one. It grows without stress, without force.
Which is so hard for us to accept.
It really is. But you cannot yell at a seed to make it grow faster.
No.
You cannot grab a sprout and pull on its leaves to make it taller. You will literally just uproot it and kill it.
Right, you just have to let it happen.
You provide the right environment, give it a little water, and let time do the heavy lifting. But the modern world has conditioned us to expect instant downloads. We want a 30-day hack to fluency.
We want the Matrix download. I know Kung Fu.
Exactly. But trying to rush language learning is like trying to force a plant to grow.
Yeah.
It only leads to exhaustion and burnout.
You know, it actually reminds me of tuning an old analog radio.
Oh, I like this. Go on.
You don't just push a button and instantly get a perfectly crisp station like you do with Spotify. You have to slowly turn the dial. And at first, you just get static.
This terrible noise.
Exactly. It sounds terrible. It's uncomfortable to listen to. Then you get a broken signal, a word here, a word there. You have to sit in that uncomfortable static, making tiny micro adjustments until finally the clear signal comes through.
Yes.
Avoidance is basically just getting frustrated by the static and turning the radio off entirely. You have to be willing to sit in the static.
That is an exceptionally apt analogy. The static is the awkwardness. The static is the second silence. If you can't tolerate the static, you will never, ever find the music.
Exactly. So the third metaphor Ava uses is the book or the chapters. She says life and learning are like chapters in a book. If you feel shy right now, if you feel unsure, or if you completely froze and stumbled through a conversation today, that is just this chapter. The story doesn't end here.
And she explicitly notes to Leo, you are the writer of the next chapter.
Which is so empowering.
It completely reframes the entire experience of failure. Your current struggles are not a permanent identity.
Right, they're temporary.
If you mess up a conversation, you haven't ruined your English journey. You've just introduced a little narrative tension into a larger story of growth.
I think this touches on something deeper about how hard we are on ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Is it possible that the reason we feel so much crushing anxiety isn't because English vocabulary is inherently terrifying, but simply because we hold ourselves to impossible standards and completely forget to be kind to ourselves?
Unquestionably. I mean, the expectations we place on ourselves as adult learners are bordering on abusive.
Abusive.
Honestly, yes. Because as adults, we are used to feeling competent. We know how to do our jobs, we pay our taxes, we navigate complex lives. But when we try to speak a new language, we are suddenly reduced to the linguistic capability of a toddler.
Yeah, that's a huge ego hit.
Huge! We expect to sound as intelligent, nuanced, and witty in our brand new language as we do in our native language. And when we inevitably fall short of that impossible standard, our inner critic goes on a vicious attack. We say things to ourselves we would never, ever say to another human being.
Which is exactly why Leo and Ava emphasize treating yourself like a friend.
Yes.
Because if your best friend came to you and said, I'm trying to learn a language, but I sounded so awkward at the cafe today, I forgot the word for napkin. You wouldn't look at them and say, wow, you are terrible at this. You sound stupid. You should just stay quiet forever.
Of course not. You'd be a monster.
Right. You would be deeply supportive. You would tell them that their small effort mattered. You'd tell them it happens to everyone. The real challenge is turning that empathetic, friendly voice inward.
Okay, so we've mapped out the psychology. We've shifted the mindset to value connection over perfection. We understand that we're navigating a river, growing a plant, tuning a radio.
Yep, the theory is solid.
But theory goes straight out the window when you are actually staring at another human being in real time.
It does.
So how do Ava and Leo translate this philosophy into actual physical steps? How do we get out of our heads and take that terrifying first step?
This is where their conversation transitions from psychological theory into highly practical tactics. They provide a specific, low-stress, 6-step action plan for initiating real-world conversations.
And if we think of the brain as a computer that keeps crashing, these steps are essentially forms of tactical cognitive offloading.
Tactical cognitive offloading. I like that.
They are specifically designed to bypass the amygdala's panic response.
Okay, let's break down this toolkit. Step 1, say hi and ask one simple question. Ava points out that this sounds almost too basic, but its power is in its smallness. You do not need a 5-minute monologue prepared. Just a hi and a how are you today or nice weather. Right.
It drastically lowers the barrier to entry. If your goal is to have a deep philosophical debate, your brain will freeze.
Obviously.
But if your goal is just to say hi, the brain categorizes that as a low-threat, achievable task.
Right. Okay, step 2, listen carefully and respond simply.
Now let's look at the mechanics of why this step is so vital.
Okay.
When most people are engaged in a conversation in a new language, they aren't actually listening to the other person. They are doing what is known as panic translating.
Panic translating.
You've felt this.
Absolutely. You're so busy frantically constructing your next sentence in your head, translating it from your native language into English, checking the grammar, that you don't even hear what the person just said to you. You're just staring at their mouth moving.
Biologically, this creates a massive working memory bottleneck. Your brain literally cannot process incoming auditory information and simultaneously construct complex outgoing grammatical structures in a second language.
The system crashes.
The system completely crashes. So step 2 is tactical cognitive offloading. By focusing entirely on listening, you are giving your brain permission to stop translating.
You remove the pressure of the next sentence.
Exactly. You just absorb the input. And when they finish speaking, you respond with something incredibly simple like, "That's nice. Oh, really?" Or, "I see."
It buys you processing time.
It does.
And ironically, it makes the other person feel incredibly heard and valued. People love it when you actually listen to them. It keeps the bridge intact without overloading your system.
Exactly. Then we move to step 3. Use simple sentences, speak slowly, use easy English, and don't try to be perfect.
I feel like speaking slowly is a superpower that most learners are terrified to use.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we watch movies, we hear native speakers talking at lightning speed, and we think speaking fast equals fluency. So we try to talk fast, and we just trip over our own tongues.
Oh, yeah. Speaking fast when you don't have the automated neural pathways for it is a guaranteed way to induce a freeze.
So slowing down helps the brain.
Immensely. The biological mechanics of speaking slowly are profoundly helpful. When you intentionally slow your rate of speech, you are doing 2 things.
What's the first?
First, you are sending a physiological signal to your nervous system that you are safe. Fast, erratic movements and speech signal panic. Slow, deliberate speech signals calm.
Oh, so you're hacking your own nervous system.
Exactly. You're telling the amygdala to chill out. And second, you are giving your brain the literal milliseconds it needs for lexical retrieval.
Right.
You're giving your prefrontal cortex time to go into the file cabinet, find the English word, and bring it to your mouth. Speaking slowly isn't a sign of weakness. It's a display of control.
That is such a good reframe. Okay, step 4 is a direct challenge to our egos. Accept mistakes.
This is a tough one for a lot of people.
It is. But Ava and Leo remind us that everyone makes them, even native speakers. As we discussed earlier, mistakes do not sever the connection. If you use the wrong verb tense, the person still knows you are trying to talk to them. The crooked plank on the bridge still holds weight.
Precisely. Which leads to step 5. Practice daily. Even if it's just for 5 minutes or one tiny interaction, consistency is the water for the plant.
And then there's the bonus step, step 6, which I think might be the most brilliant hack for overcoming the initial barrier of fear.
Oh, I love this one.
Ava and Leo suggest. Talk to yourself. Describe your day in simple terms out loud. I am drinking tea. Today was a good day. I am walking to the store.
The psychology of talking to yourself is really fascinating.
Why does it work so well?
Because it creates a zero-stakes environment.
Yeah.
There is no audience, meaning the spotlight effect is totally disabled.
The amygdala perceives zero social threat.
Exactly. But physically, you are still training your brain, your tongue, your lips, and your vocal cords to produce the phonetic sounds of the English language.
You are carving the neural pathways in a safe room.
Yes.
So when you do step out into the coffee shop, your physical mouth is already accustomed to forming those shapes and sounds. It's basically a dress rehearsal, where you are the director, the actor, and the only audience member. There are no awkward second silences when you're talking to your teapot.
It builds the muscle memory of speech without the cognitive load of social anxiety.
It's genius.
It really is. But to execute these 6 steps out in the wild, Ava and Leo realize something crucial.
What's that?
We cannot apply these steps if our internal monologue is still hostile. We need to completely overhaul the vocabulary we use to talk to ourselves about our own abilities.
Right. The labels we put on our experiences dictate how we feel about them.
Exactly.
Towards the end of their chat, Ava and Leo review a foundational vocabulary list. At first glance, it just looks like basic English words. Conversation, confident, nervous, simple, practice, mistake, connect, comfortable.
Just standard vocab words.
Right. But then they move into these powerful mindset phrases. Start small, step by step, improve, keep going, opportunity, don't overthink. It's essentially a masterclass in cognitive behavioral reframing.
If we connect this to the broader psychological shift we've been tracking, it's about moving from a vocabulary of deficit to a vocabulary of growth.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning the words you use internally literally shape your biological response.
Break that down for me. What does that look like in the moment when you were standing in front of someone?
It looks like noticing your physiological state, the racing heart, the sweaty palms, and catching the thought, I'm so nervous right now, I am failing.
Oh.
And actively, consciously changing that thought to, I have an opportunity right now to practice. The physical sensation in your body might remain exactly the same. Your heart is still beating fast, but the label you apply to it changes everything.
You change nervousness into anticipation. You change a threat into an exercise.
Exactly. It's moving from "I made a terrible mistake" to "I am practicing step by step." When you reframe it that way, the mistake loses its power to shame you.
It's no longer a character flaw.
Right. It ceases to be proof of your inadequacy and instead becomes a necessary, expected brick in the foundation of your learning.
Ava specifically points out that we need to stop saying, "I'm not good enough." We have to catch that phrase and replace it explicitly with, "I'm learning" or "I'm improving."
Because "I'm not good enough" is a closed door, it's a final verdict.
But "I'm learning" is an open road.
Beautifully said.
And Leo adds a fantastic point to this. Slow is not just okay. Slow is actually better because it feels less stressful and more natural.
When you embrace slow progress, you completely eliminate the panic of falling behind.
Because there's no schedule.
Think about it. You can't fall behind on a journey that has no speed limit and no finish line. Language is a lifelong river. By removing the artificial deadlines we impose on ourselves, we remove the anxiety that chokes our ability to speak.
So what does this all mean for you listening to us right now?
Yeah, let's bring it home.
It means that your very act of tuning into this deep dive, sitting here with us, and absorbing these psychological concepts means you are improving.
Even if you don't feel it right now.
Exactly. Even if you don't feel a dramatic surge of vocabulary in this exact second, the needle is moving. The cognitive shifts are happening. The plant is getting watered. The river is flowing.
You are normalizing the process. You are taking the mystery and the terror out of the blank mind and replacing it with patience, understanding, and a clear tactical strategy.
To recap our core message today, you do not need a massive vocabulary or complex, textbook perfect grammar to connect with a fellow human being.
You don't need to be flawless.
No. You just need the willingness to tolerate a little bit of static. You need the courage to open the door, to say a simple hi, and to accept that slow, quiet progress is still profound progress. You are building a bridge, plank by plank, word by word.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that completely reframes the power dynamic of that coffee shop or that classroom or that break room.
Okay, I'm listening.
We spend so much time trapped in our own heads, worrying about our own nerves. We wonder, what if I sound awkward? What if I make a mistake? What will they think of me?
The relentless internal monologue of the spotlight effect.
Right, it's incredibly self-focused. But what if the person sitting next to you, the girl holding her coffee at the cafe, the stranger in the classroom, the colleague in the hallway, what if they're feeling exactly the same way?
Oh, wow.
What if they're lonely? What if they're having a terrible day and are desperate for a brief human connection, but they are too shy or too exhausted to start it themselves?
That completely flips the script. It takes the focus entirely off your own ego and puts it on the other person.
Exactly. What if your simple, imperfect, grammatically flawed, nervous hi is the exact bridge they were hoping someone would build for them today?
That's amazing.
When you speak, you aren't just imposing your imperfect English on someone else. You might be giving them the exact gift of connection they were looking for.
It turns the terrifying act of speaking into an act of generosity. And that is a beautiful place to leave it. Thank you for sharing this quiet, calm space with us today. Keep going, step by step. Treat yourself like a friend. And the next time you feel like a frozen machine, remember, you don't need to be a perfect manual. You just need to be human. You really can do this. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.